This is an interview of Henry Holland. He escaped World War II. He started off in Poland, and I'm going to ask him some questions, and he's going to tell us his story. What was your life like before the Holocaust?
Well, let's start from the beginning. Um, I was born in 1927, and when the war broke out, September 1939, I was 12 and a half years old. We lived in a large city, actually the second largest city in Poland, where probably more than 50% or close to 50% of the population were Jewish. And Lodz, the name was Lodz. The question is, were we Orthodox or were we religious? Well, like most of the people in our city, there was only one religion. It was an Orthodox. You might have been observant or not observant or half observant. We were, for the most part, we were observant. My parents were merchants. We had a store. And my brother and myself, we went to a Hebrew school where we learned about religion and we learned about Zionism. All the courses in school were in Hebrew. So, because my father, who used to be a teacher or principal of a Hebrew school at one time or another, we spoke Hebrew, at least I spoke Hebrew with my father. With my father spoke Hebrew at home, so I knew Hebrew even more, maybe better than Polish. Well, at any rate, when the war broke out, or actually before war broke out, the question is what happened before war broke out? Well, before broke out, we already felt that we were not liked by the Polish people.
Before everything started, you already knew that?
Before the war started, maybe a year or two, the Polish people started to what they call a mini pogrom against the Jews. I remember that in our street there was a neighbor who was killed by the Poles, and we were all obviously upset about it. When the war broke out, we didn't anticipate that all the bad things that happen later on will happen to us, because we were Jewish, but we were also Polish, and we knew that Poland is strong. We knew we had a very strong army, and within a few very short time we'll be able to, if ever the Germans will attack us, they will be able to conquer them. And also, I remember that we got all kinds of promises from the Polish countries like England and France, that they will not allow that anything bad will happen to Poland. However, that's not what happened. On September 1st, 1939, the Germans attacked Poland. Within 7 days, they attacked our city and they conquered our city. Warsaw, on the other hand, was the capital of Poland, was only surrounded and was conquered by the German within 30 days. So that was the end of Poland. After 30 days, our city, which was relatively closer to German border, immediately was annexed to Germany, and all the laws and regulations which the German Jews had to obey, immediately also, well, in Hebrew, chal, also were we have to adhere to it, and they were pretty tough. On the other hand, Warsaw and the eastern part of Poland was considered to be a conquered territory, and those laws didn't reach yet that part um, of Poland. Within a very short time, maybe 2 weeks, we started to feel the whole brunt of the German occupation.
That's when you know how bad it was?
At least that's what happened to us. What happened to us? Our friendly neighbors happened to be Germans who grew up with my mother. Felt they do want to get our apartment, want to get our store, and so they sent some Gestapo soldiers to our store, threatened my father, beat him up, demanded all kinds of unreasonable requests, and eventually they told my father that if he doesn't adhere to all those things, which were impossible to fill, then they will kill him. So, with the advice of our good neighbors, good neighbors quotation mark, they advised that my father and my brother should run away from Lodz and should go to Warsaw, where they will be safer. And of course, and then my mother and myself would stay for a while in Lodz, and then we'll join them after we pack all our belongings that were possible to take with us. And that's actually what happened. In November, my mother and I followed my father and my brother, and we went from Lodz to Warsaw, a trip that usually takes about 3 hours by train. It took us about 3 days and 3 nights on exposed carriage with a horse and buggy, and we suffered the cold and hunger and so on. And eventually, after 3 days, middle of the night, we arrived to Warsaw.
Were things better in Warsaw?
Well, at the beginning, things were much better in Warsaw because, as I said before, all the laws of Germany didn't happen yet to be in Warsaw. Luckily, my father had some friends, and he was able to get a room in an apartment of his friend and accommodated us. So we were 4 of us in this room. It didn't take long till we ended up with 13 people in one room. I bet it was a large room, but still 13 of us slept over there. 8 over there lived in this room. My parents, who I mentioned before were Zionists, always wanted to leave Poland already in 1932. Consequently, at that time, they were able to obtain Polish passports. Nobody, well, practically nobody in Poland had a foreign passport. But as I said, we were able to get it. And that actually what saved in a way saved our life. With this passport, my father and mother went to a certain bureau, certain travel bureau, who were arranging visas, fake visas, but visas to get out of Poland. Now, it wasn't easy. It didn't take a day, it didn't take a week, it didn't take a month, but it took about 6 months going back and forth from home to this bureau, my father and mother, through danger of being caught by the Germans on the streets, taken to work, and maybe, if they didn't like them, maybe being killed on the street right there. I personally saw from the window of our apartment, I saw the Germans gathered some Jews, and later on, right across the street, put them against the wall, and it is my recollection they were eventually killed over there. So we never knew when they were going out of the house in the morning. We never knew whether they will return safely or not, and we were always sort of praying and waiting. When they eventually came back to the apartment, everybody was very, very happy about it. And Erev Pesach, 1940, we finally were able to obtain all the papers, whether some were fake, some not, to some destination into Bulgaria with a transit visa to Italy, to Trieste, Italy. Now, I have to say that the cousins, my mother's cousin, tried to get it, permits, they couldn't get it. Eventually, they ended up in Palestine, in Israel. My mother's sister, however, and two children couldn't get any, for some reason, they couldn't get any papers, and of course they had to stay over there, and eventually they were in the ghetto, and they were killed by the Germans. Now, just a point of interest, when we were in Lodz, and just before we left Lodz, the Germans started to build the walls for the ghetto in Lodz. But luckily, thank God, we escaped. When we left Warsaw, the same week or slightly before, they already made plans to build the walls of the ghetto in Warsaw. So, lucky, thank Hashem, we never ended up in the ghetto. Had we ended up in the ghetto, obviously we wouldn't have been able to get the permits and get out of Poland.
So where did the permits get you to? The visa got you to where?
Well, the visa, as I said, the final destination was Bulgaria. That was a fake visa. The transit visa was a real visa. That was to Italy. Once we got to Italy, and we came like me, Avdut Lechirut, because in Italy we were free. We saw the paradise over there. And I said, it was Erev Pesach. Actually, we came the second day of Pesach. We participated in a community seder over there.
On the boat?
Rabbi.
Was it on the boat?
What?
This is in Italy?
In Italy. Well, we went to...
On the boat.
There was no boat. No, to get from Poland, and later on to Palestine, we never used any boat whatsoever. Everything was by land. So from Poland, we went through to Poland, Czechoslovakia, Austria, Vienna, and then Italy, and everything was by train.
Yeah.
And there were some dangers on the train because they took us off the train, they checked us out, and any smallest deviation from the rules or so, they would have then taken us off, sent us back, and maybe to concentration camp. Hashem helped us. We ended up on Pesach, as I said, in Trieste. We had a community seder. Maybe there were 1,000 people, and this seder it took a real meaning because it was, I said, was ma'avdut lecherut. Okay, if you want to know what happened later, or you wanted some other reaction that I see you have here, some other question.
Yeah, I wanna maybe
How much did I know what was going on in the world around the extent that was happening?
Yeah. So did you know about around where Germany and then all the other countries and how developed the war was and what was going on?
You mean at the time when we
Yeah,
were
at a young age, at 12.
at a young age, as I mentioned before, we were Polish. I mean Jewish, but we were Polish. We were strong. We weren't concerned about the Germans because we knew that the Polish army, had more horses, cavalry, more horses than any country in the world. Hence, we were strong. We knew that the Germans were starving because somebody said they don't have butter. And without butter, well, how could you live without butter? So we knew they were poor, they were not strong. We never believed that something like that happened. We knew that the free world will come and rescue us. As I said, I mentioned before, France and Britain, and well, that never happened. We okay. The question is, at the time, could I believe that something like that possibly can happen?
Yeah.
No. Nobody did. None of the 3.5 million Jews, or 3 million Jews who lived in Poland ever believed it. And it's not a cliche, but it actually, from my experience, I know it actually happened. That when we asked our neighbors, asked our cousins to possibly join us and try to get permits to get out of Poland, they all said, oh, we're not going to go. We were born here. Our forefathers were born here. We lived all our life. We have our property here. And whatever the word was, the sentence that they always repeated, whatever will happen to the 3 million Jews will happen to us. Thinking that nothing will happen to the 3 million Jews. But of course, unfortunately, it happened. Bad things happened to the 3 million Jews.
What's your feeling towards Germans nowadays?
Well, of course, I always hated them. From my personal point of view, when I was little, I did mention to you that we crossed we went from Lodz to Warsaw during this period in November. That was during winter, and I did mention that there was a border. Actually, there was a border between the east and west of Poland. So east, as I mentioned before, was annexed to, and the other one was conquered territory, again, of our government. And when we crossed that border, the Germans searched us, and I brought with me a collection and albums of stamps. Were They were very, very dear to me. And the German guard over there liked them and said, I'm taking it away from you. And I started to fight with him. And my mother said, don't you dare. And lucky I didn't, and they confiscated this. They took just about everything what we have. Obviously, they took our store, they took our property, they took our, and well, they never returned it. So, and they killed our family, they killed my cousins, my aunts, uncles, my saba, sapta.
What about the Germans nowadays?
Well, I didn't have any reason to like them. As a small episode, we went to visit Israel one time, and somehow ended up in changing planes in Frankfurt, Germany, and I felt very, very, very bad. Every minute that we stayed in the airport, I felt very bad. I almost couldn't take it. I said, let's get out of it. And because their hands were covered with our blood. So I never forgave them, and well, as of now, I will never forgive them.
Did anyone help you during the Holocaust, and Nazis, or any other friends? Did anyone who wasn't Jewish help you during the Holocaust, either Nazi or?
No, on the contrary, I mentioned the story that we have the store over there, and next to us there were neighbors, German neighbors who grew up with my mother, and they were our best friends. But instead of helping us, they sort of promised. They said that after the war, they will return everything, that they will keep it for us. But like most Poles, they never returned. They took it on themselves. Another interesting episode, about 15 years ago or so, we made a trip with my brother to Poland with a group of Israeli educators. And so we went, my brother and I left the group for a short while, and we went back to Lodz to see where we were born, where we grew up. And when we told the neighbors who we are, that we used to live here, they were all concerned. They were all scared. Why were they concerned? Why they were scared? Because they thought that we came to take the property that they took away from us, that they will take it away from them. And so they pretend that they don't remember or they don't know. Only after long search, we found somebody who remembered my parents and our parents. And he said he sort of apologized for all the atrocity, for the facts that they didn't help.
Has your view of humanity changed after the Holocaust, or has it changed since then? Like
The what?
Your view of humanity, saying like you don't think people are as good at heart or something, or.
No, it doesn't change. On the contrary, it seems there is more anti-Semitism nowadays, or just as much as it used to be, and people who hated us at that time still hate us. But thanks to Hashem and thanks to the Medinat Israel, we are not concerned. We're not concerned as much as we were before, because we were by ourselves.
But
now,
do you think another Holocaust could possibly happen?
no, because Israel will not allow it.
Mhm.
It will not be Masada. We will not die together with our enemies, but we are strong enough, have enough influence in the world that something like that will not happen. Anti-Semitism, will it happen? Yeah, of course, it will. It always will. But hopefully, we'll be strong enough and smart enough to escape it and to eliminate it.
One last question. What do you have to say about the people who deny the Holocaust and say it never happened?
They're no different than throughout the history, in one form or another, whether they denied there was Holocaust and they denied the anti-Semitic. They are the haters, the typical haters of the Jews. So whether they express themselves and they say we deny it, or they keep it to themselves and they don't like us, it's the same thing. And it goes back to the fact that we are proud now of our heritage, proud of that we have Medinat Israel, proud that we can stand on our own feet, and let the deniers be deniers. Hopefully not, but if they are, that they not deny. They do deny their own reality of life.
And after you went to Israel, you lived there for around 30 years, you said?
Oh well, it took the trip to Palestine, to Israel. It wasn't within a day. Again, we had to stay in Italy until we once again got another visa to some South America. This time the visa was again fake visa, but we have a transit visa to go to Turkey. And we went to Turkey by land again. Italy, Yugoslavia, Greece, and Turkey. Turkey, we were welcomed once again by the Jewish organization, by HIAS, by the Joint Distribution Committee, by some wealthy Jewish people. They helped us. They put us up in hotels and apartments. They fed us. They gave us money. And again, the search for the ability to get out of there continued. Most of the people not necessarily wanted to go to Palestine. They would go any place that would have been received, accepted, welcomed, and many went through all over the world, China, Cuba, Santo Domingo, and many went. We were lucky to finally get our certificate to Palestine. So in 1940, in September, we finally arrived from Turkey through Syria, Lebanon. We arrived to Tel Aviv.
What was the most memorable part about that Seder that you had?
Oh, Moshe, I think you know because I told you this before. The most memorable thing of that Seder was that we were singing V'hi Sheyamda. V'hi Sheyamda Lavatenu V'lanu שבכל דבר ודור עומדים עלינו לכלותנו והקדוש ברוך הוא מצילנו מידם. And somebody started to sing it, and they were singing and singing and singing, and probably took maybe an hour, between half an hour and an hour, I exactly don't remember, and we were singing this Yamda until, and we felt it because we were rescued, as I mentioned before, מעבדות לחירות ותקווה to, 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 to get out of there, get out of the Holocaust, and go to freedom. And we did. And we did. So that was the most memorable. And with the spirit, and I mentioned before, there were maybe 1,000 people, 1,000 refugees, and they were all singing, and they were all so happy, and it was so wonderful to be in Italy. And actually, the Italians were nice to us, then even though they were part of this Germany pact, Japan, and Italy, and Germany, but they were really nice to us, and accommodating us, and so on.
And if is there anything that you want to tell people, a message to get out of the video if they're watching this?
Well, we have to. I didn't prepare anything like that, but we have to learn from our history. We have to be able to be independent. We have to have confidence in Hashem, in Am Yisrael, Achdut Yisrael, and Medinat Yisrael, and especially on the eve of the Hey B'Yar, which is a miracle happened to the nation of Israel, that we got through miracles. Our own back, our country. Just follow that, and just be a good person. Don't be bad. Don't be bad to others, like the Germans, Chas v'Chalila, were, because there's no reason. Be nice to others. Have confidence in yourself, in Hashem, and the good, badrachim atovot, in good ways.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.